Today's video is proudly sponsored by Booking.com. Here's a 40-unit apartment building. At an average rent of $1,700 a month per unit, it brings in a very respectable $816,000 in gross rent each year and is worth around $7 million. Here in Asheville, North Carolina, there are 7 homes built into the earth and above the trees that gives you a feeling of floating above the treetops and clouds. And these 7 one-bedroom homes bring in a whopping $856,000 in gross rent and cost a small fraction of the apartment complex to build out. Now, the really crazy part, this is all in one property and it's worth a lot more than $7 million. Okay, now I know the title of this video says 7 floating homes when there are really 2 that are literally built into the ground, but 5 tree houses and 2 earthen homes is just too long of a title. Sorry for the clickbait, but either way, you're gonna want to see this crazy genius behind this land hack. Welcome back to another episode of the Breakdown series, where we talk about unique builds, rentals, properties, and we look at how they're making money for their owners, as well as the unique structures and lessons that you can take, borrow, steal for yourself. Now, I've been following this property for years and was a big fan when they had only their main listing, the Sanctuary. But now they have 7 incredible listings and it's quickly growing to 20. Yeah, you heard me right, 20. But no joke, they are booked out many months in advance, consistently hitting occupancy rates above 90%, even during the so-called off season. To have 1 or 2 high-performing listings in a larger portfolio, that's one thing. To have 7 on one property is the unicorn that's an alien that can also grant you wishes. Now, the property isn't just a bunch of unique homes in the middle of nowhere. They're actually located in the once sleepy corner of North Carolina in the city of Asheville, which has boomed into an extremely hot market for adventurers and folks who want to have that feel of a small town in a city setting, all the while enveloped like a warm blanket by nature.
Asheville is so awesome. I don't want to tell people about Asheville because I'm scared they're going to move there.
I know.
I'm scared they'll move there and a place up.
It's crazy. I mean, it's grown so fast already, man.
Because it's unbelievably beautiful.
Now, I first heard about Asheville back in 2009, 2010 from, oddly enough, from stand-up comic Joe Rogan when he was talking to his buddy Duncan Trussell, who was raised in Asheville. And once you get the infamous Joe Rogan bump, all bets are off. Asheville is very popular these days. Asheville is also tucked into the hills and forests on the east side of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, as well as being at the end of the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's easy to see how Asheville's population of only 100,000 people seems like a lot more, with nearly 12 million visitors coming through each and every year, and it's only growing. And it's this combination of the natural beauty, quaint town feel, and 12 million plus folks that has boosted this property that we're looking at today into one of the highest performing single properties I have ever seen, with some of the coolest listings. Now let's talk about the structures. Now, when you hear treehouse or earthen home, it naturally elicits images like these. I'm literally working on 2 right now. But when you look at these homes, other than being built on a little slope or lifted up into a tree, the structures themselves look pretty standard, just like a nice home. I mean, if they were on level ground, you'd just say like, oh yeah, that's a nice little home. Each of these units is only a 1-bedroom, 1-bath space that can sleep up to 4 people, so they're not incredibly large. Now, that's gonna be very important for us to know here in a little bit when I share with you how much they spent building these things out and the ungodly returns that they're getting on each of them. But first, let's set up our how much questions. How much to buy the land, how much to construct, and then how much can they make? But I know you're all curious about how the heck 7 small homes can make nearly $1 million every single year. So we're gonna answer the last questions first. How much can they make? The short answer, as you know, is a lot. Just using my data aggregator, we can actually see the performance of each of the listings. Look at the consistency of the revenues and occupancy year over year. For this one space, one of their Hobbit homes, their worst month in nearly 4 years was a 70% occupancy rate, which is what most other STRs pray to average. And that was most likely a maintenance month with some blocked dates, since we don't see that sharp of a decline anywhere else. Absolute textbook example of an A+ vacation rental investment. We can easily assume that the farmhouse is the lowest performer at only $80,000 a year. Add that all up, and we're sitting at that whopping $856,000 a year number. Now, typically with projects like this, you build 1, 2, maybe 3 homes at a time to not overwhelm the market and completely crash and destroy your bank account. But they have been so wildly successful the past few years that they are now building 13 more unique tree houses on the same property. Now, this small experiment has officially turned into a full-blown commercial landscape hotel, which is brilliant. But the value of the property like this isn't just the cash flows, but the overall value, otherwise known as equity. Assuming that they have a properly licensed commercial business and everything's built to code, we can do some back of the envelope math to see how much this business is really worth. So we also know that they host events and weddings on the property. So let's just keep it simple and let's say that they bring in $1 million in revenue each year, gross. Now, removing property taxes, cleaning fees, management fees, maybe a few employees from their hard cost of running the property, this does not include loan servicing. Let's say that we subtract out $300K from that, leaving us $700,000 net profit. Now, campgrounds, hotels, and RV parks are sold anywhere between a 7% to 10% cap rate right now. Cap rate is how investors and commercial brokers value businesses based on their net income. It's the same method with apartments and multifamily buildings. Now, if we assume between a 7% to a 10% cap, that gives this property a valuation of between $7 to $10 million. Now you know why I stress equity creation so much. Now, if your jaw hasn't dropped yet, wait until you see how much it cost them to build this all out. But there is one number I want you to keep in mind. $122,000. That's the average income per door. I want you to compare that here in a little bit to the cost of building out each of these homes. Now, building out a crazy, unique, and different experienced rental like these grain silos or the tree houses in today's video is one thing, but just having them on your property doesn't really mean much if you can't market it to reach your guests to book them. That's why I'm a huge fan of marketing as broadly as I can, especially with platforms that have a large international audience, especially since the STR market has had and will continue to have for the years to come massive growth in international traveling, and Booking.com specializes in that. Consistent bookings are key, and Booking.com does that in several ways, including a partner onboarding program that helps 45% of new listings get their first booking in the first week of going live, and then helping new spaces jump the algorithm with their innovative quality rating system so you don't have to rely on just reviews to boost your listing. Now, setting up a property is super easy. It can be done in 15 minutes, and you can seamlessly import property information from other travel websites straight into Booking.com. And I know what's important to every host is making sure that you get paid and you're protected, which Booking.com is one step ahead of you with guaranteed payouts, fraud protection, and support if guests damage your property, along with the $1 million liability protection for each and every reservation. Now, as our new properties come online this spring, we will be looking to Booking.com to help us boost our occupancy rates and income as well. And be sure to create those unique experience moments in your photos to really make your listing stand out. Give Booking.com a try. I think you'll really like the results. Next question, how much is construction? Now, looking through the interior and exterior photos, I can estimate the rough dimensions of the spaces and homes themselves. Now, we already know they're all 1-bedroom, 1-bath cabins, and I calculated that they're each around 700 square feet, give or take a little. Other than being elevated homes or covered in dirt, basically a glorified green roof, the construction and finishes are nice, but pretty basic. Nothing very elaborate here. We know that the majority of construction also took place prior to 2020, so they didn't really see those sharp construction price hikes. So let's say that there's a total of 5,000 conditioned square footage built. Now, look at the market that they're in, North Carolina, the finishes and the style of the homes. I'd say a good estimate is around $150 a square foot is a good ballpark price for all the structures. So we extrapolate that, that's a total of $750,000 or about $100,000 each. Now, you know I like to be conservative with my cost estimates. So let's include the septic systems, pulling the power, engineering, and then of course the more complex foundations. Let's tack on another $250,000 to the overall build cost. Add in decor, furnishings, and all that other stuff, $150,000, and let's just do a miscellaneous catch-all for permits and other expenses of another $100,000. That gives us a grand total of $1.25 million. That's an estimated cost per home of $178,000. Now, do you remember that number I asked you to keep in mind earlier? That $122,000, the average income per home? $122,000 a year versus $178,000 to build. Basically, each of these homes are paying for themselves in just over a year. That is a heck of a return on investment, especially in real estate. estate. Now, if you want to dig deeper into that, go download my free kit that includes my spreadsheet and my PDF guides if you want to see how to run numbers just like this on new projects in less than 5 minutes. You also will get my guide on how to find the right locations and what you should be looking for when it comes to the types of structures to build on these types of properties. KaiAndrew.com, all the links down below. Now, because of these insane returns, it is why they're building 13 more. Now, me personally, I think that's a tad aggressive given the economy, the cost of constructions right now, interest rates, but who am I? They've already been super successful. I could be wrong. But I guess in today's dollars, it'll cost them around $275,000 per structure. So they'll be investing an estimated another $3.5 million into the property, which is not an insignificant amount. But if they even perform at half the level of the existing 7, it's still going to be a phenomenal return for them. And these are all lessons that we can learn from them. Now let's get to that last question, which is arguably the most important. How much to buy the land? So we know that these folks purchased the land several years ago before the latest real estate boom and craze. And going through Zillow, we can also see that the public data is rather sparse. So I have to do a little bit of hunting and digging here. Now we can see that the surrounding lots that are about an acre are being appraised anywhere between $70,000 to $150,000. Now that's market and then tax assessment, but that gives us a good ballpark range of the price point. Now without digging deeper into the records and really taking a lot of time, we can just make the assumption that we're able to purchase each acre for about $100,000. Might be a little bit off, but that's gonna give us a ballpark price. And looking at this aerial map, let's say it's 10 acres. Now I'll tell you why I have to estimate it here in a second, but it's actually why I think they were able to build so many homes on one property. Based on the name of these roads right here, we can assume that this was all one parcel when it was purchased and this road was obviously put in. I don't think the city is going around naming roads Treehouse Haven and then just coincidentally somebody buys it and starts building tree houses. But I also found that 3 of these rental homes with different addresses on Google Maps. Now that's a massive hint. They either purchased these lots separately over the course of multiple years or maybe all at one time, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense considering that the road is here and that the homes being so close together, which means that they most likely purchased everything as one large parcel, added the road, and then subdivided, which is a brilliant land hacking method that we talk a lot about. Here's why it's so smart. Most parcels of land are limited to one main dwelling structure and then maybe an accessory dwelling unit and then storage, garage space, and that type of thing. But really, you're limited to 2 dwelling units, even if it's large acreage. But by subdividing it into half-acre lots, they can build multiple homes with different addresses. That's how they're doing the 20 tree houses. I call this micro-developing, and it can be a great way to skirt around certain zoning limitations. So now, let's assume that they purchased approximately 10 acres for $1 million, which now we know the value and the numbers is a heck of a deal. Now, all in, to date, that's $1 million for the land, $1.25 million for construction, for a grand total of $2.25 million invested, which I'm going to assume a large portion was financed. Now let's assume that they put $500,000 of their own cash in, which is roughly 20%. The place is now worth between $7 and $10 million based off cash flows, and potentially could double in value with the 13 new units coming online in about 5 months. In business, we call this a 20-bagger, or making 20x your initial investment. Either way, this is a grand slam in the world of STR investments if I've ever seen one. With the right properties and vision, vacation rentals can be far more lucrative than just traditional real estate investing like single-family homes and multifamily. And it can cost a fraction of the price to enter with far less maintenance and headaches. And this property in Asheville is perfect evidence of that. Building unique homes and properties is exactly what I do and what we focus on in our Land Hacker program. Come talk with me and my team if you want to learn more on how to build a unique home investment for yourself or maybe for you to live in. If you think what we're doing is a good fit, you can join us in our program and start working with me, Cam, Justin, and all the rest of our team, along with hundreds of others in our community on creating projects just like this. Here's one of our members, Ellen, who literally just launched and went live with her super unique mid-century star home in Alaska. Not only did she start getting bookings right away, but she messaged me excited about one booking that was for 5 nights that brought in $4,200. That pays for all of our monthly expenses on the property. That means every new booking for that month is pure profit. Go check out my links down below in the description and set up a time to talk with me. What do you got to lose? I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Thanks again to Booking.com for sponsoring today's video. Link down below to start marketing to even more future guests.